Today on the Social Investing Network, Lule Demmissie, CEO of eToro US, joins the show to discuss the state of DeFi, where it's headed, a conversation you won't want to miss. And Disney is launching ads in Disney Plus. We discuss how this impacts Disney and streaming wars and whether this is a good thing for the House of Mouse.
Plus, a $200,000 Bored Ape NFT sells for $200. Was it a gigantic fat finger mistake, or is it a shady scam? It's Wednesday, May 18th. Subscribe below, hit the notification bell, and let's get into it.
Today, we kick things off with a very special guest. She describes her career as empowering retail investors and championing financial well-being. We are proud to welcome to the program the CEO of eToro US, Lule Demmissie. Lule, how are you doing today?
Hey, Zaid and Delano. I'm so excited to be here with you, man.
We are so excited as well. We want to get into a bunch of topics today, kicking things off with DeFi. You know, DeFi has been getting a lot of press recently, some good, some bad. I want to get your take. What are the aspects of DeFi that excite you?
You know, what I love about DeFi is what I love about everything that's come across my career that breaks normal, right? Because we know that normal means status quo, and status quo usually means that people who are on the outside of systems don't get access to them, right? So the benefit to me of DeFi, I mean, the definitional benefit is decentralized finance, right? But what does it mean in practical sense? It means that systems that have either guarded the gates of access to things that could facilitate transactions among normal small businesses, people in developing countries, those gates get dissolved because now in code you trust, right? It means that fees that have been, high for transactional or other benefits get challenged because ultimately some of those steps that you have to take to make a transaction happen disappear, and it's a much more direct contract to contract engagement, right? So there's practical elements of what technology does every time, which is create efficiencies. But there's also aspirational elements, which is that people who didn't get access to some of these facilities get access.
Lule, that's such a great point. And I like what you mentioned about challenging the status quo. And I really heard you speak on this topic a lot, but as people of color here, on this show, there are some things that need to be challenged in the status quo, especially when we're talking about crypto and this new technology. What would you specifically like to see happen in order to get more women and people of color involved in DeFi?
So part of it is seeing people of color talking about this stuff, right? I think the power of representation is a big part of it, right? Because the reality is, I've heard enough about, how the industry does not let people in, yes, those are all true. Yep. Come on in and break it apart then, people, right? And part of it is just being defiant. See, like that? So defiant and coming into the house and being a Trojan horse and coming in and learning it. One of the things I love about your show is that you are bringing the knowledge to the table, not just the noise of why people are left out, but the knowledge. And what is the key to getting into any gate? Knowledge, right? So to my mind's eye, the first thing is getting people excited about getting intellectually engaged about this space. It is so much fun. I break my brain every day learning in this space. So that's one, is representation and people like us talking about what it means, not just how it's left us out, but what it means. We becoming the ninjas talking about this stuff. That's just as important.
You're absolutely right. And just myself, just over the last few months, I've been going on deep dives, learning more about the DeFi space, and just the more knowledge I gain, the more comfortable I feel with it, because it can kind of be scary in the beginning, but there's constant innovation happening in the space. So what do you think over the next year, what do you think is going to be the biggest dramatic change in the DeFi space?
So I think we're living through, like every innovation, there's the exhale and then there's the inhale, right? So clearly with the macro environment we're in, right, with the fiscal policy that's there, right? You can't divorce that from the cycles of innovation, right? So as monetary contraction happens, of course, it's going to impact growth. Who gets impacted when growth is hit, right? Innovation, the stuff that makes stuff for not just tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, right? So there's the immediate reality of what happens in a world where there's monetary contraction, what happens to DeFi, what happens to innovation and technology, and that is that it could slow down, right? The beyond the immediate reality is this: technology has never been able to be won over, meaning that it always wins, right? It always wins. And so the way I look at it is you either get on the train to understand this technology or you're left further behind because your distance of knowledge is so huge. So what will happen in this industry? We're doing a little bit of an inhale right now, right? And we will learn from that. There'll be interesting regulations that come out of it. There'll be the broader traditional landscape learning about it. But in the end, I think what happens over the broader horizon is that this amazing technology takes on more use cases, more valuable things that bring real value to real people.
Real value to real people. I love that, Lule. And a lot of people are starting to get to know your incredible background, your story in economics and investing, which, is really impressive. And what has been for you your biggest influence in pushing you in that direction for a career? Obviously, the skill set is amazingly there, the passion is there, but was it instilled in you at a younger age, or did it come later on through education? What clicked with you as like, this is the way that I'm going to reach a lot of people? And where was that click for you?
When I realized power, the knowledge of money was power. And I realized that in order for us to advance equity, you got to know the heartbeat of money. And frankly, it was interesting to me. I have always been I'm like a kid. This is like a very interesting, intellectually interesting. This is genuine. I didn't take a bunch of caffeine. I didn't even have my coffee today. Can you imagine what I would be like if I had my coffee? But like, it's so genuinely interesting to me. So it's the idea of like capturing the intellectual interest and not thinking of it as work or a chore, right? The way I try to engage people is sometimes what happens is when people talk DeFi or crypto or anything that's futuristic, they get themselves all worked up in explaining the technology instead of explaining what will that technology provide. And for most people who didn't grow up with this around their dinner table, around having their uncles and aunts and parents take them to clubs where they're talking about this, unless they know the why, it's really hard to be at the table to talk about the what, right? So yes, I was privileged enough to have parents that fostered intellectual, curiosity, but they didn't know about DeFi or any of this, right? But they fostered intellectual curiosity. I had 3 brothers that I had to constantly fight over to get attention. That also helped. And then I also just in general genuinely liked this topic. So I leaned in and wanted to be a master at it. I'm far from it, but that is one of the things that drove me.
Lule, I think you mentioned something that really caught my attention, is having the intellectual curiosity. And I think a lot of young people, especially young people, have the intellectual curiosity, whether it's about investing in the stock market or even things like crypto and DeFi. But what about the people, maybe like the older people, right? Like maybe people like my parents that just grew up in a traditional financial environment, and they're just really confused or scared or skeptical about DeFi and the technology, whether it's the yield farming or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
What would you tell them about like their skepticism about this whole space?
So I think skepticism is very important, right? I often would say, like, if I had a band when I was in my teens, it would be called the Doubting Thomases. I love skepticism. It's a healthy mental framework, right? But there's a difference between healthy skepticism and frightened. And fright, what it does is it freezes you in place. And when you are frightened and don't have knowledge, you are the one that is going to be left out, right? So one of the things I tell people is don't be deaf to your skepticism. Let it be, but then put it aside for a second and get into the knowledge space, right? I'm not encouraging people to deep dive into this with their wallets right away, right? But there's no cost to intellectual curiosity. There's no cost to being open-minded and learning, right? So one of the things I tell people is respect your skeptic, your inner skeptic, but put aside your inner fear person, because that one is not going to serve you well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. One of the best places to learn about this stuff is the internet, and this show especially, where we dive into topics like DeFi
For
and try to break
sure.
things down. So
this show is fabulous. This is a great show to learn about that.
Thank you, Lule. Well, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show, for giving us some of your time. We would really like to have you back on soon to talk more about this stuff, because I think more people want to learn from you and your background. I think more people are more open to learn from you as well, just because of the background that you come from. So thank you so much, and hopefully we can have you on soon.
My pleasure, and keep on doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Zaid, I am fired up. That was an awesome interview. I'm fired up, and let's get into this topic. Our first topic and headline of the day is Disney Plus is rolling out ads, but will it be good for Disney? So yes, Disney is rolling out an ad-supported tier and vows to show very few commercials on this ad-supported tier for Disney Plus. This move is part of a bigger push by streaming services to lure new customers onto their platform. And Disney executives said that they will not accept alcohol or political advertising at its launch initially. And there's actually some reports that media buyers indicated that they were a little surprised about the amount of control Disney is exerting over the potential ad roster. And this new dynamic might create a sense of scarcity for Disney Plus, which could be good for their commercial ad inventory. Zaid, this is an interesting topic. We're seeing Netflix talk about it. Now Disney's saying they're going to bring it to their platform. But this could be good for Disney. If you're getting that ad revenue, as well as adding new customers, like, there's obviously downside risk in anything, but this seems to have some pretty good upside potential. We obviously know that Disney owns streamer Hulu as well. But Zaid, what do you think about this? Is this going to be good for Disney?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a great move for Disney. Now, Disney Plus is one of those, obviously we know that streaming platforms across the board have started to hit their ceiling. Now, Disney Plus is still growing based on their latest earnings report. Here's a graphic of all this. They're continuing to see growth. Yeah. Netflix is starting to see a bit of a contraction. So what all these streaming services are starting to do is have an ad-supported tier because it's a way for them to acquire more customers, offer at a lower price point, and monetize using ads. This move by Disney makes a lot of sense for the company. And the fact that they're only going to limit the commercials or the ads to 4 minutes per 60 minutes, to me is great. I mean, if you look at a traditional TV show, right? 60 minutes of TV, you're getting about 15 minutes worth of ads, right? So this is way less than that. And for all the people that are like, I hate ads, this is going to ruin the experience, they have the option to pay more and get the ad-free experience. Yeah. So to me, this is a win-win. The company will will get more subscribers using the ad-supported tier. That'll allow them to get more money and invest that into better content. So everyone subscribed to the platform is going to benefit from this. I don't see any reason why this is a bad thing. Also, Hulu, if you look at Hulu's ad revenue, Hulu, I think, is majority makes money from ad revenue. There's a great graphic right there. They're continuing to see an increase in ad revenue. So that's why Netflix is going to have an ad model pretty soon. And I like the fact that Disney's going to have, they're going to be tight control on the type of ads that are going to be shown, because a lot of kids watch Disney Plus. I'm a subscriber. My daughter watches it all the time. So I like the fact that they're going to be conscious of what kind of ads are going to go on there as well.
Yeah, Zaid, I had to give this one to you. We talked on the show I think it was a couple months ago, about Netflix adding this. And I said it was going to be way further down the line. And Netflix is coming out saying every time we hear from their executives, they're pulling that forward, where they're going to add that ad-supported tier, I guess, reportedly anyway. So it is coming. It's coming a lot faster than expected. As you mentioned, you're getting that plus side with the ad revenue. You're potentially, getting some people that are tighter on their wallets or whatnot, and adding those kind of customers. It's really could it be a win-win for Disney in this scenario?
Yeah, and people would say like, oh, because we're going back to the age of TV. No, when we had TV or cable, we couldn't skip through ads. We didn't have an ad-free version of TV. Yeah. This is still a way better system. At least we have the option to save money if we want to and watch some ads. So this is great all around. All right, moving on to the next story. Another fat finger mistake by an NFT holder, or is it something else? The popular Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT was sold recently for $200. Now, some of you guys probably think that a JPEG of a monkey selling for $200 is already way too much. But Delano, you probably know this. These Bored Apes sell for a lot of money. Right now, the floor is around 100 ETH. Yeah. Which is $200,000 at current prices. So this dude accidentally sold his Bored Ape for just $200, right? So this is one of the biggest financial mistakes of this guy's life. Or some people are saying there's something shady might be going on. Some people are saying that maybe he accidentally sold his Bored Ape as a tax loss event. What do you think of all this? Because this is really interesting. It's a very crypto story here.
It is a very crypto story, Zaid. And it's interesting because we're seeing a couple fat-fingered mistakes, as you mentioned, pop up. And we can speculate. Of course, we cannot accuse because we don't know what happened. But it is kind of fishy that the buyer and the seller both created their accounts within the last 5 months. Also, there seems to be some coordinated timing in the listing and where the offer was in and the buying happened, which is like under 3 minutes, it looked like. So, people are questioning some things surrounding the event because it seems a little suspect in what's going on. As you mentioned, could have been a potential tax loss that the seller was trying to get, because we just had to watch these transactions. But it already happened. So now what happens, because the transaction has already ran through, Zaid?
And on top of that, the guy who bought the Bored Ape for $200 is now selling it for $400,000 now. It's for sale right now. So, I'm still kind of confused on how the tax stuff will work. I guess the guy who sold it, let's just say this guy is being shady. He sold it to himself to, I don't know. I'm not even going to try to figure it out. We're not tax experts here. That's not what we're here to do. But I just thought this was a very interesting crypto story. And again, we have to acknowledge the fact that there are some downsides to the whole decentralization movement, right? When these transactions happen, it is permanent. There is no takes backs. Because you'll see stories sometimes of like some guy waking up one day or some gal waking up one day and be like, oh my God, someone deposited $2.8 million in my bank account, and it's an accidental deposit and the bank will take it back, right? There is nothing like that here. If you accidentally send your money or your crypto or your NFT to the wrong account, whether it's a fat finger mistake or whatever, you're not getting it back. It is permanent. So we have to accept some downsides of decentralization with the upsides. And this one, unfortunately, is a downside. So whether it's shady or not, it is a very interesting story.
It is, and you mentioned like accepting that as we start to get more agency using DeFi and using crypto and technology to get more agency of our funds, right? That leads to us being the one we point a finger to if there's any mistakes that happen. And we've talked about before that double and triple checking before we make transactions, which is always something we implore people to do whenever they're making these large, transactions like this.
Absolutely. Well, Delano, that was a great show. We covered a lot of things. I think it was probably our best show ever. So. Remember, we go live every day. So hit that subscribe button, come hang out with us, and see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
We out.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in every day. Also, hit that like, subscribe, and notification buttons. We'll see you tomorrow.